Assalamu alaikum. May peace and greetings be upon you, my fellow brothers and sisters of Islam, and a warm welcome to all of you who is not of the faith. Yesterday, I was in a live session, a physical live session, which had to do with career guidance on the social media and the entertainment industry. And something really interesting came up. I was speaking to a bunch of youngsters, very enthusiastic youngsters who were of age, 17 to 2021. And one of the biggest problems they noted as a challenge that they were having personally was the problem of overthinking. That they actually said, and everyone agreed, and I was surprised by the consensus, because when one participant just mentioned about how overthinking is one of his particular problems, and then I asked if it can't be a common issue. Is it true for everyone? And almost 99% of the entire audience raised their hands. Apparently, the younger generation today are an overthinking bunch. And on the one side, I believe we can't blame them. Because when I was young, for example, how I was able to avoid overthinking was by being busy. I was busy with a lot of activities, a lot of sports, a lot of extracurricular activities, and even post college, that just continued. But the modern education system has just made it so lethargic for the budding young student, young learner, that they find themselves wasting time at an early age, and then they get used to it. So what happens when you waste time? You start getting addicted to things like the phone, and then you start browsing, and you browse until you get fed up of it, not on a daily basis, but maybe you've done it for years, and after 5 years, 6 years, you start getting, it just gives you a certain kind of fatigue and a negativity. And I've spoken to a lot of youngsters who've given up browsing, especially social media, because it just makes them feel bad. But however, what happens is that ultimately, browsing the phone that much and going through so much content, especially content that is not very useful or that is not very educational, but more like content that is showing off, and that creates a sort of sadness in your heart, uh, asking ourselves the question, why am I not having such a great time? Why am I not in this party? Why am I not in this trip? Why am I not able to achieve that? So you're just seeing 100 achievements of 100 people, but with every achievement, you start questioning, why am I not, or why am I not eligible for this, for whatever these 100 people are feeling? Sometimes just losing sense of the fact that it's 100 people, 100 lives, that one person cannot achieve all 100, and one person shouldn't aspire to achieve what other people are achieving. So both of those fundamentals are forgotten, and then you find yourself lethargic, you find yourself lazy, you find yourself with nothing to do, and obviously, then what happens? Thinking. You start thinking, and then you start overthinking after a certain point. Now, how did we tackle? Now, primarily, I don't think as a young student, young learner, I had this issue a lot because I was busy. I actually had the overthinking issue a little later in my life, after facing certain losses, but even those, I had to somehow process them and move forward, because I didn't really have the time to worry too much. I had other things in my life. I had my full-time work, I had my education, I had my work, I had my part-time work, my lectures. So I just had to keep going, keep the cycle moving. And if you're someone who is able to do that, my dear brother, my dear sister, then keep the cycle going. That is the best possible way, because that will just help you, one, manage whatever you're going through, the emotions, the difficulty of it, but it will also just keep you, giving you the little bits of insights and perspective into whatever is happening to you, that little by little you are able to get over that. Okay, that's number one. That's one of the main tactics. But predominantly, you should understand, and I'm going to come at this from a religious standpoint, from the Islamic standpoint. Islam says that most of the evil thoughts, especially like laziness, jealousy, envy, these come from the Satan. or who we know as the shaitan. And shaitan or iblis, another name for the shaitan, is, if I just give you a basic introduction, is the jinn, is an entity that refused to prostrate to Adam, the first man. When God created Adam, and in using clay, God asked all the angels, among who the iblis also was there, the shaitan was also there, and God asked everyone, and shaitan is not an angel, mind you, everyone to prostrate to Adam as a command. So all the angels prostrated except iblis, except shaitan. And shaitan made a covenant that until the day of judgment, he will whisper in men's ears, he will try all of his tactics to dissuade, to disperse men, or just to drive people away from their true purpose. So I'm not going to reflect on the purpose side of things, but I'm going to reflect on the shaitan, on the influence of Satan. So anything and everything that Satan does is a negative thing. It has a negative influence on us. And one of the main things that we understand from Islam is that Satan is a whisperer. And God gave us a perfect solution against Satan's whispers in the name of Surah An-Nas, which is the 113th chapter, the one before the last of the glorious Quran, which is the word of God. Now, in this, and I want to take your attention to this. This is very important. We say, or God commands us to say, I seek refuge with Allah, the Lord of mankind. Kul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. The king of mankind, Malikin nas. Malik is the king. So Malikin nas, the king of mankind. And the Ilah of mankind, the God of mankind, Ilahin nas. Min sharril waswasil khannas. And that is from the evil. So I seek refuge with God from the evil of the whisperer, or the devil who whispers evil in the hearts of men, and who withdraws from his whispering in one's heart after one remembers Allah. So, and it goes on to say, who whispers in the breasts of mankind. Allazi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas minal jinnati wan nas, of jinn and men. Now, this is a protection that God has given to mankind against the whispers of Satan. But the crux of the matter is the idea that your overthinking is predominantly driven, if it is heavily negative and if it is filled with nonsense, filled with things that affect you badly, then it perfectly belongs to the verse 4. The evil of the whisperer who whispers and withdraws. So much of your overthinking problem, my fellow brother, my fellow sister, much of your overthinking problem is because the Satan whispers in your ears and you don't know where it comes from. Think about it. How many thoughts do you have generally that are not of your own? Now, I can make a conscious thinking, right? I can think something like, today between 6 to 7 p.m., I am going to study, and I'm going to study hard. All right, 6 to 7 p.m. Now, that is a conscious thought that you had. And then when you start studying, by 6:15, suddenly something pops up. Like, as you're studying, something pops up. Oh, there's a movie. I can watch that movie. It'll be so fun. It's an action movie with animated action, maybe a Marvel superhero movie. So you're studying, but suddenly someone reminds you, hey, there's a movie. Why don't you go watch that? Or, you've got a game that can be resumed. So that is not something that you thought. It just came out from somewhere. And that, in Islam, we understand. We know that it is a whisper of the Satan. And the problem is you can't find Satan, because the Satan whispers and withdraws. That's why there are many thoughts in your mind that come to your mind, and most of them are negative. You will notice, because it just drives you to despair, drives you to disappointment, drives you to be sad. That is a tactic of Satan, to make you feel bad, to make you feel sad, to make you feel hopeless. That is the primary tactic, so that people may forget their God. Somehow, the important matter is that if you have an overthinking problem, and it's likely that the overthinking issue is filled with a lot of negative thoughts, understand that it is coming from the devil. It is coming from the evil of Satan, who wants to whisper in your ear and who wants to drive you away from the path, from the right path, from a good path, from a path that is filled with effort and kindness and honesty and compassion. Like, for example, anger. A good example is anger, in fact, because when we think about anger, and anger is an issue that I have dealt with deeply and I'm dealing with deeply. I'm learning about anger, I'm trying to manage anger in various ways. I'm learning the science of dealing with anger, the history behind anger, anger as an emotion. And what it has told me is that most of the people have their anger, the expression of their anger is triggered by sort of like a whisper, by a thought that comes to their mind that they didn't think, but that just pops out, that just came into your mind, and it suddenly is prompting you, now it's time to get angry. Now you're having a row with your brother or sister, let's say, and it's very amicable, it's going back and forth, and suddenly something comes that is personally insulting to your mind. You didn't want to say it, you didn't want to call your brother an idiot, but it just pops in and you say it, and suddenly the fight is bigger. And both of you are angry, shouting, screaming at each other. That is what Satan wants. So understand this. Understand that the negative thoughts that are coming into your mind are not of your own. You're not a generally negative person. No human being is. It's coming from the evil that has been created as a challenge, as a test for all of us. And it is our duty to understand the nature of that evil and to work hard toward dealing with that nature or dealing with that evil, so that we can defeat it and overcome and reach our goals. And perhaps down the line, inshallah, be closer and stay firm on the straight path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is what I wanted to share. If you really have the overthinking problem, I think it is high time you start thinking about it this way and you start getting control of your thoughts. On that note, I'd like to bid all of you farewell. And until I see you next, my fellow brother and sister, I would like to bid you with greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.